Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you are still having a good spring break. I know some of you wanted to get started a little early, so I already got the module up and I'm giving you your overview video. Before we start, I want to go ahead and show you something. Here is a watercolor painting that my son Matt did for me last year for my birthday, and it's of a clicker from The Last of Us. I know some of you console cowboys and cowgirls already know what this is, but with the season already wrapping up on HBO, even more people do. But anyway, I thought that was really cool. So, enough of the pop culture references. Let's get back to 20th century culture. Talk a little bit about what we're going to do this week. You're watching this video right here. Looking next, we've got our overview. As per usual, we'll be looking at Langston Hughes, our last writer of the Harlem Renaissance, kind of at the tail end chronologically, and also William Faulkner, the great Southern writer and one of the great granddaddies of what is sometimes called the Southern Gothic genre. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that at length, especially when we get to Flannery O'Connor, who's also a member of the movement. So, we'll be looking at Hughes' poetry and also the short story Barn Burning. I know it gets anthologized a lot, but I think it's a really good entry point for people getting into Faulkner. For those of you who've read a bit of Faulkner already, such as I Lay Dying, which has some hard subjective shifts in it, or The Sound and the Fury, that's got four independent voices that are very different, or Absalom, that has a lot of stream of consciousness in it. You will notice that, he is a technician who likes to vary the way he structures and builds narratives. But again, you get a little bit of a peek of that in Barn Burning. Of course, all of those novels are really, really great too. I think I might like Sound of the Fury the best, but As I Lay Dying is good too. Okay, so coming up this Wednesday, you're going to be reading the biographical information on Hughes. Remember, you should always read that. That information can really help inform your responses for the quiz, and also the poems. The Negro Speaks of Rivers. We're going to be talking a little bit about what is called the racial unconscious. Mother to Son, I Too, Mulatto, Song for a Dark Girl, Genius Child, Freedom, and Theme for English Bee. Now, all these poems are well anthologized, and you've probably seen some of these before. And for Saturday, you've got Faulkner's Barn Burning, and you've got your discussion due on Wednesday, your initial comment, and your 2 replies due on Saturday. Little heads up, coming up on Thursday, the 6th of April, you're going to have quiz number 2. And I'll be talking a little bit about that in the videos in this week. If you'll notice, among our materials are going to be the literary terms for quiz 2. That's a video. I've also made a document for it, and they get a little bit big and woolly here. I'll open that up. We'll take a look at that. And we also have literary movements that can be talked about. I know that was a challenge for some people, so I'll try to make that easy to identify and kind of like tag with each writer. For a lot of the entries that I put on quiz number 1, there was more than one that I think would work. Some people would use, let's say, for Kate Chopin's The Storm. Some people put naturalism. Some people put realism. I think you could make an argument either way. I mean, there's shades of gray. Literature is very, very rarely 100% or 0%. Um, that's what makes it fun to talk about. There's always a new way to approach things. Some people put regionalism as the literary movement for the storm, and that's fine too. But anyway, of course, as we get closer to quiz 2, if you have any questions about structure or how to study for it, please let me know. I'm sure some people would love to hear from that too, and I will put that in another video or in an email, depending on what I think is going to be easier for people to get to. Looking now at, okay, let's go to literary terms real fast. All right, now what I did here is try to break down some of the common terms that I talk about in this course, and a lot of these are going to be very, very familiar to you. Remember, these are a great way to show a sense of precision when you're writing your second essay and when you're writing commentary on your second quiz and also on the final. I'm not going through and checking off boxes saying you've got to mention each one of them. I mean, I think it's far more interesting for you to apply what you think works. And again, this is just a beginner's list, really. But I'm going to keep on adding to it as we go on. So, you might want to print this out or have it in the background or, make it your wallpaper for your phone or something like that. A lot of people like to do that, I know. But that'll help you out a little bit. Now, going back to all this, other things that I want to talk about too. I put a video for Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit. If you're not familiar with Billie Holiday, she's a fantastic jazz singer from the 40s and 50s mostly. And this song that she wrote is a real heartful response to the violence that continued after the Civil War against African American people. Not only Jim Crow laws, but this song particularly about lynching. And it is a fitting companion to the poem that we read by Claude McKay, Lynching. So listen to that too. I mean, we're getting to a period where there's going to be a lot more intertextuality between different artistic media. We talked about this a little bit in the past too, but it's going to continue to accelerate with, technology on the rise. And, first it was radio in the 20th century. And then, as we get through the we have motion pictures, but also the rise of television. Don't think I have anything about the internet in here. I was thinking about this the other day, but I don't think the great American novel about the internet has been written yet. I know it's definitely appeared in some works, notably Don DeLillo's Underworld, which is kind of his big, fat novel. A lot of novelists feel the need to make like a big one. That's his. DeLillo is also the author of White Noise, which was made into a movie for Netflix by director Noah Baumbach. It hits some things, not everything. The book's great. But we're not reading that either. Okay, so let's keep on moving on here. We'll talk about what's going on in discussion. And here you're going to be talking a bit about the Harlem Renaissance. I mean, all these people that we've read from this period, from this movement, Claude McKay, Zora Neale Hurston, Langston Hughes, they're put in as members of, prominent members of this movement. And remember, this was a movement that was not only about literature, but also about music and theater and painting and sculpture and all kinds of things. And we'll talk a little bit about that in an upcoming video. But even though they've all been put into this movement, I mean, there are still some very interesting differences between them. If you notice, I'm asking you to think about what they might have said, what they said about race, gender, artistic creation, either directly or indirectly, that is implied in the works that we've read. Um, and also, what if anything links these together? These authors. What distinctions do you see? I think there's a lot you can do with this one. And again, it's super open-ended, but think about content, think about form. You might also want to think about what other movements they might be considered a part of other than just Harlem Renaissance. Because once again, literary writers and literary pieces can be categorized in different ways, and to say it's part of this one movement and only this one movement, I think can be reductive, and I think we want to avoid that. I think as far as this kind of interpretation goes, and this goes for interpretation in general, which is so important in a literature class or an art history class. There's no such thing as a right or wrong interpretation. There's either a well-supported interpretation with evidence from the text and an explanation and analysis that leads back to that thesis, or a poorly supported interpretation. So keep that in mind. Make sure you put in some strong lines there. Having that specific line there gives you something to, not only anchor your comment, but also to help craft, a very specific response that also sharpens your own technical analysis. We can talk broadly about movements, but if you have to just pull out a couple sentences and say, this is what I'm pulling out of this, and this is how I see it relating to the larger work or the larger body of work of a particular author, I think that's an excellent exercise. As you could probably tell, I'm no fun to argue with, because I always will say, oh, well, when you said this one line, then it obviously meant all this about everything else, so don't use it in relationships. Do use it in your literature classes. Let's go back to the overview. And I do want to talk about, going back to the module, actually, essay number 2 coming up. And here it is. Most boring title in the world. Makes it easier for me to find them when I have to update them, etc. But don't use the title of this sheet as an inspiration for the title of your essay. Your essay titles should be vibrant, exciting, grabby. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. First of all, let's talk about dates here. You've got your tentative thesis due on March 29th. And again, shoot a couple different ones at me. I like talking about them with you guys. It's a little bit more difficult to do over email, but this is what we have to do. I mean, again, visit me in my advice hours too. I would love to talk about these with you. My general advice to you is pick something that you really like and you want to talk about, or that you want to figure something out about. That's a really, really great start. Rough draft is going to be due Sunday, the 16th of April, and your final draft is going to be due on Sunday, the 30th of April. So we've got a bit of time here, but you know how I work on these now, right? I like to extend them out so that we really get to work on the process along the way for a literary analysis essay. If we just wait until the night before and do it all beginning to end, we all know that's not a recipe for a great paper. It gets us off the hook because we know we didn't try our best on it. But if we really want to improve ourselves and improve the product that we're making at the end, we've got to look at every step of the process along the way and give us time for that process. So once again, I mean, it's more like a composition class way of structuring an essay, but I think it works really, really well. So we've got all kinds of topics listed here at the top.